Tells me if I ever say that again, that I may not be invited back in the bedroom. So
I
I
see.
gotta be careful. We've been together almost 21 years. I want to.
A doping ban. 3 months, 0 matches played. Nobody survives a doping ban and still breaks history. Sinner did, week 59. John McEnroe's 40-year record, gone, just like that. And the man who built it, McEnroe loses it in a way nobody thought was even possible. While Sinner sat at home suspended, the ATP rankings kept ticking. Week 57, week 58, then week 59, and McEnroe's 58 consecutive week streak at world number 1, untouched for 4 decades, was gone, erased by a man who wasn't even allowed to compete. Fast forward to Rome 2026. Sinner has 31 consecutive Masters 1,000 wins. 5 straight titles, a feat nobody in history has ever pulled off. Not Federer, not Nadal, not Djokovic. His season win rate sits at 93.8%. Fifth best in the entire Open era. The only record still standing above him, still considered completely impossible, McEnroe's 96.5% from 1984. And that is exactly where McEnroe loses it, not at a line judge, not at an umpire. On live television, watching a silent 24-year-old Italian dismantle everything he built, one record at a time. Hit subscribe right now. Because what McEnroe said when Sinner passed him is the part of this story that nobody in tennis media is telling straight. So what exactly did McEnroe say? Speaking on ESPN at the 2025 US Open, McEnroe looked directly into the camera and said it plainly. Sinner is playing at a level that I did not anticipate would be that high at this point in his career. I am very amazed that he is this good. Not grudging admiration, not diplomatic praise, genuine shock from a man who has watched every generation of tennis since the 1970s and has never been shy about telling you exactly what he thinks. That statement means something specific coming from McEnroe. This is not a commentator filling airtime. This is the man whose records are being dismantled, sitting in a broadcast booth, watching it happen in real time, and admitting he did not see it coming. That is not a small thing. McEnroe does not do false modesty, he never has. To understand why McEnroe losing it matters, you have to understand what he actually built. In 1984, McEnroe went 82 wins and 3 losses across the entire season. His win percentage was 96.5%. That figure has sat at the top of the Open era records for over 40 years. Federer had his best year in 2005, 95.3%. Djokovic peaked at 93.3% in 2015. Sinner himself finished 2024 at 92.4%. Great numbers, all of them. But nobody got to 96.5%. Nobody even got close enough to make it feel threatened. Until now. Because right now, in 2026, Sinner's season win rate is 93.8%. He has 30 wins and 2 losses through early May. That puts him 5th in the entire Open era for single-season win percentage, above Djokovic's best, above Nadal's best, above every season any active player has ever had. And the French Open has not started yet. Wimbledon has not started yet. The 2 tournaments where Sinner has historically been the most dangerous version of himself are still ahead on the calendar. McEnroe's 96.5% is not a guarantee anymore, it is a target. But let's go back to how we got here, because the record McEnroe lost last summer was not the win percentage, it was the consecutive weeks at world number 1, and the way Sinner broke it is the part that should genuinely make your jaw drop. Sinner became world number 1 on June 10, 2024. He won in Halle, he won in Cincinnati, he won the US Open, he won the ATP Finals, he defended the Australian Open in January 2025, and then WADA handed him a 3-month suspension for 2 positive doping tests from March 2024. The ban ran from February 9th to May 4th, 2025. He missed Indian Wells, Miami, Monte Carlo, and Madrid. He did not play a single competitive match for 3 months, and the ranking did not move. Carlos Alcaraz could not close the gap. Alexander Zverev could not close the gap. Nobody could accumulate enough points to knock Sinner off the top spot while he was gone. So the weeks kept counting. Week 46, week 47, week 52. At week 52, Sinner joined Federer, Connors, Hewitt, and Djokovic as the only 5 players in history to hold number 1 for a full year in their debut stint. Still, he kept going. Week 57, Week 58, Week 59, and McEnroe's record of 58 consecutive weeks, which had stood since the 1980s, was gone. Sinner's first stint at number 1 eventually stretched to 65 consecutive weeks, before Alcaraz displaced him after winning the 2025 US Open. The historical ladder for consecutive weeks at number 1 reads like this: Agassi held 52, Nadal held 56, McEnroe held 58, Hewitt held 75, Sampras held 102, Djokovic held 122, Lendl held 157, Connors held 160, and Federer holds the all-time record at 237. Sinner at 65 consecutive weeks is now 6th on that list, and he is 24 years old. The math of what lies ahead is uncomfortable for anyone who wants those records to stay intact. There is also the matter of what Sinner did during that suspension that nobody talks about enough. He came back, properly back. His first tournament after the ban was the Italian Open in Rome in May 2025. He lost in the final to Alcaraz. He then lost to Alcaraz again in the longest French Open final ever played. 5 hours and 29 minutes, 3 match points squandered, a super tie-break heartbreak that would have broken most players mentally. He did not break. 2 weeks later at Wimbledon, he beat Alcaraz in the final to win his 4th Grand Slam title and become the first Italian man in history to win at the All England Club. McEnroe was commentating at Wimbledon that year. He watched Sinner win it, and at the 2025 US Open shortly after, McEnroe sat down with ESPN and said what he said: "I am very amazed that he is this good." He also called Sinner's coach Darren Cahill one of the greatest coaches in any sport and said Cahill should be in the Hall of Fame. High praise from a man who is selective with his praise, always has been. But here is where the story takes a turn that makes the whole thing richer. At the 2025 Australian Open, before the suspension, before Wimbledon, before any of this, McEnroe interviewed Sinner on court after a second-round win. McEnroe asked about Sinner's calm temperament on court, clearly poking at the contrast between the two of them. Sinner looked at him and said, "We can say we are a bit different, me and you." The crowd at Rod Laver Arena laughed. McEnroe looked genuinely caught off guard. They ended the interview with a bro hug. The man famous for screaming at umpires, hugging the man who has never once raised his voice on a tennis court. That moment matters because it shows you the dynamic at the center of this story. McEnroe is not threatened by Sinner. He is fascinated by him. He does not understand how someone can be this dominant while appearing to feel nothing about it. Sinner wins 6-1, 6-2 in a Masters final in 57 minutes and walks off like he finished a training session. McEnroe won the same way in 1984 and celebrated like his life depended on it. 2 completely different human beings, one record, one man passing the other. Now let's talk about 2026 specifically, because this is where the story becomes genuinely historic rather than just impressive. Sinner started the year at the Australian Open as defending champion. He lost to Djokovic in the semifinals after leading 2-1. His first loss to the Serbian since 2023, and his first failure to reach a major final since Wimbledon 2024. It was a shock result. People started writing the usual narratives about vulnerability, about Alcaraz closing the gap, about whether the dominance was sustainable. Then Sinner won Indian Wells without dropping a set. He won Miami without dropping a set. He became the first man in history to complete the Sunshine Double, Indian Wells and Miami back-to-back, without losing a single set across both tournaments. He then went to Monte Carlo, beat Alcaraz in the final in straight sets, and won his first Masters title on clay. Then he went to Madrid and beat Zverev 6-1, 6-2 in 57 minutes to become the first player in ATP Masters 1000 history since the series began in 1990 to win 5 consecutive Masters titles. Not Federer, not Nadal, not Djokovic. None of them ever did it. To put that in perspective, Djokovic and Nadal both held the record of 4 consecutive Masters titles. Sinner took it to 5. His Masters 1,000 win streak at that point stood at 28 matches. He then arrived in Rome and extended it to 31, tying Djokovic's all-time record for consecutive wins at Masters level. A win in his next match makes him the sole owner of that record, too. His 2026 stats through early May read as follows. Win rate 93.8%, fifth best single season in Open-era history. Masters 1000 record, 24 wins, 0 losses. Clay court record in 2026, 12 wins, 0 losses. He has not lost on clay this year, at all. And he is now the fourth and youngest player in history to reach the final of all 9 Masters 1000 events, joining a list that includes Djokovic, Nadal, and Federer, men who collectively won 65 Grand Slams between them. The only thing Sinner is missing from the Masters series is Rome. He has never won it. He is playing it right now. If he wins, he becomes only the second man in history to complete the career Golden Masters, winning all 9 Masters 1000 events. Djokovic is the only man who has ever done it. If Sinner completes it this week, he does it at age 24. So when you line all of this up, what you are actually watching is not just a great tennis player having a great run. You are watching a systematic, methodical dismantling of every benchmark the previous generation set. McEnroe's consecutive weeks record, gone. McEnroe's place on the hard-court Grand Slam winners list, matched and then surpassed. McEnroe's single-season win percentage, the last wall still standing, and Sinner is climbing toward it right now in real time. There's one more thing worth saying about why McEnroe's reaction to all of this is significant, beyond just quotes and sound bites. McEnroe spent his entire career as the most combustible, emotionally raw player the sport had ever seen. He played tennis like it was a personal fight every single time. Sinner plays tennis like he is solving a problem. No emotion, no theater, no drama, just execution. And the man who built his legend on drama is now on television every week, watching the emotionless Italian erase him from the record books, one entry at a time, and instead of rage, what comes out of McEnroe is awe. That tells you more about how good Sinner actually is than any statistic can. When the most competitive, most opinionated, most historically difficult man in tennis looks at what Sinner is doing and says he is very amazed, that is not commentary. That is a verdict. McEnroe's 96.5% is still there. It has survived 40 years. It survived Federer at his peak, Djokovic at his most dominant, Nadal at his most relentless. But it has never faced a 24-year-old with a 93.8% clip before May, heading into a clay season he has not lost a single match on, with the French Open and Wimbledon still to come. The record nobody thought was possible to break is the last one left, and the man chasing it does not lose it. He does not celebrate, he does not flinch, he just keeps winning. If this video gave you something the mainstream tennis coverage missed, subscribe to the channel right now. We cover every angle of this story as it develops. No filler, no noise, just the real narrative behind the numbers. The next update on Sinner's 2026 season is coming soon, and at the rate he is going, it will be worth watching.